but at least I'm following John, right?
That should be simple. Keep them away.
So yeah, here's my contact information. If today I say something that isn't clear, follow lunch, like I said. If you have questions, follow-up questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'm at my desk pretty much every day. That number's, I'll be there probably 6:30 to 4 pretty much every day. Feel free to reach out to me. A tad about myself, as I mentioned earlier, I started here just 4 months ago. So kind of like you guys learning these P&Ls, the trucking industry is kind of a foreign language to me. So I'm going to try my best to kind of simplify accounting, simplify these statements for you guys. And if you guys can give a little bit of patience to me when we're speaking trucking lingo, I may not understand it, so just bear with me on that sense. The terminal P&L, this is what you guys all have in front of you. It's the same template for everyone. We mirrored this from Pitt, Ohio. It's a very similar outline. We've kind of changed it to what is proper for us here at Dorn. As you'll see, there's a month to date, January, and then a year to date. Obviously, with us both being year to date and January, the numbers are going to be the same. But you're also going to have columns for both where you're having a percentage of revenue for year to date and month to date. This is going to allow for us to, as revenue goes up, kind of compare, are we going better in labor, fuel, etc. I'm going to start with a very general, broad sense, starting here, and then go section by section, and then go line by line. So when I get to the line by line, if I don't cover something, feel free to raise your hand, ask questions, but yeah. So the first key section here that you'll see is at the top, we have a revenue. We're going to have revenue pooled together, so it's all just revenue going in and out. You're going to have a January or whatever month it is, the amount of days, business days in that month. And then to mirror it too, for year to date, you're going to have the same amount of days that we have in the year to again kind of allow us to, for February, we're going to only have 20 business days. Well, why did revenue go up or why did revenue go down? Well, is it related to the fact that we were open more? To kind of allow for us to say, well, it should go up, it should go down. And then within the top section, again, percentage of revenue is the second column for the month to date, total year to date, and then percentage of revenue for the year to date. Your second key section is your operating expenses. This is probably the most important section for you guys because this is what you guys directly control. This is what you guys can affect the most. And these are directly to you guys. I'm going to go in more in depth later, but this ratio right here is probably what's most important because that's what you can adjust, that's what you can work on, and it's going to differentiate. Now, 60% might be good at one terminal, 70% might be good at one terminal. That's what we're trying to figure out, what's good and trying to improve that number. Your second section here is your other operating expenses. Now, this is something that you guys can directly get billed for, but it's not something you have a ton of control on. The top line, facility lease, you can't say, hey, I'm going to go move out of this terminal and go somewhere else. But we know that it's a cost that's directly related to your guys' terminal. Same thing with workers' comp, safety-related expenses. And again, controllable costs, the other key ratio that we have here is the direct costs of revenue. And that's just calculated by, well, we have the controllable cost, that section right above it. And then the section right here it's 5.5%. And then direct costs of revenue at each terminal. And again, this is the same exact idea. What's a good number here? It's independent on which terminal you guys are. So again, I have 74% up here. 74% good, is 78% good. That's what we're working on to get you guys the information and what we need to improve on. And then the last section, this is, for the most part, this is corporate overhead stuff, your HR, safety, sales, stuff like that, that if you guys were to split off, if a terminal were to split off and create its own company, you guys would have these costs, but it's at a corporate level where we're allocating back out to you guys. Again, some key numbers that we have in here is the terminal operating income. Obviously, we want that number as high as possible. And then the OR at each terminal. And a kind of a break-even point is a 1.0 or 100%. So if you see 1.2, that means in a very simplistic sense, for every dollar of revenue, we're spending $1.20 on costs. If it's 90 cents or 90%, every dollar of revenue, we're spending 90 cents of costs. So from now on, I'm going to go kind of line by line. So if something within this that I don't speak on if I don't articulate it well, feel free to raise your hand because it's the last time I'm covering these line items. The top maybe 6 or 7 lines, I think you guys have seen these numbers for the most part. I think, Robert, they're getting those, okay. So revenue is not something new. Again, it's a pooled number to you guys. The labor doc, this is gonna be overtime and regular wages. So it's a little bit summarized compared to your labor revenue, but it should calculate out to be the same number. This reship credit is something that Russ, Matt, Robert, Ivan, we all sat down and said there's terminals that are doing some dock work that they aren't getting any revenue. They're just taking it, putting it on the truck, and then it's going out. Well, we did a study on 5 days in January and February where we said, okay, your weight was, you shipped 1 million pounds, $200,000 roughly was this reship cost. We've then said, okay, 20% of your labor dock, we're gonna allocate away from you and towards the line haul cost. So those costs aren't something you guys are gonna be affected in this number, but you're gonna get a credit, and then at the line haul, which is like right here, it's gonna be hitting you. Now that's gonna be allocated out to you guys at a different rate, but again, that way you can kind of see actual dock percentage of revenue comparative to other terminals. Same thing with driver here. That's gonna be anything, your sprinters, your P&D, and overtime. It's just gonna be the same thing. It should agree to those labor revenue reports that you guys are getting already. The new part for labor is starting at the labor and office supervisors. This is where anybody that's not in those other 2 buckets that are permanent workers, supervisors, people at the office continuously, that's gonna go in that bucket. For other labor, if you guys are hiring temp agencies or temporary people, that's where that number is gonna go, whether it be dock, P&D, or office supplies people. The next 2 lines are pretty self-explanatory, the PTO and the holiday. If somebody's getting the holiday or the PTO hours, that's where it's gonna go. And then the payroll taxes is your FICA and your unemployment taxes that each one's around on payroll. Any questions there? Again, most of that information is pretty standard, and you guys have been receiving those numbers already. The next one is, the next 3 lines are your tractors and trailers expenses. The top 2 lines are the tractor and the trailer. We know a total corporate amount of cost that we have. So tractors, and when I say corporate, it's McCoy, it's anything within the company that we are doing. That's gonna be within that tractors. The trailers, we know the same amount of costs, the total cost. Now, if you have 10% of the fleet, you're gonna get 10% of the cost. So it's getting portioned out to you guys. So we know how many trailers and tractors are in our fleet. If you got 10% of it, you're gonna get 10% of the cost. Now, where the other vendors is, if something breaks down, most of you guys are probably seeing a 0 here, but if something breaks down and you have to go get one kind of emergency or temporarily, that's where that line's gonna get hit. Now there's 3 fuel lines. You'll see a fuel line above, and then two lines, I think the 3rd or 4th last line. I have them together here, and the important thing that I want to point out here is anything, when fuel goes up or fuel goes down, we've got it adjusted between these two lines here, that it's going to be fixed cost. So if fuel is $10 in a year from now, your direct cost, that first ratio, won't be impacted by that $7.50 change. It was $2.50 is what we used. It's gonna hit this purchase price variance down below. And again, that's kind of allowing us to compare January of 2017 to January of 2018, or January of 17 to any other month, knowing we've got a price variance in there. So we know, so let's say that the total cost of fuel for the entire corporate is $1,000. If the price went down, there's gonna be $1,000 used here, and then price going down is gonna be impacted there, not at that top line. The next one, again, right above, it's in the allocated expenses, the fuel surcharge. Again, we don't want you guys getting, gas going up, gas going down. We don't want that direct cost to hit that direct cost ratio. So we have that down there below. And then your last four remaining operating expenses that you guys are correctly controlling. First one is the building maintenance. This is any maintenance, any routine, non-routine, anything that's hidden there. The other terminal overhead is really anything just left over, utilities, heating, shrink wrap, whatever small things you might need. Your line haul cost is gonna be allocated out to you guys on the amount of weight that you guys are shipping. So if we know that the line haul cost is, again, $1 million, you're shipping 10% of the product, you're gonna get 10% of that line haul cost. And our line haul cost is everything from wages to the truck's amount to the gas amount. Everything that's been pooled in there getting allocated back out to those terminals. And again, it's on the weight that you guys are shipping. The direct cargo claims is any claims that you guys have that we can directly tie to you. Some of you may see a credit, a negative on there. That means for the most part, you probably were a 0. We do have some amounts that we salvage. We're gonna allocate the amount that we salvage back out to you guys. So when we do our corporate, when we pool all the terminals together, it's tying to what we know we have. Any questions on the other expenses above, or operating expenses above? Again, this is the most important part of that section. So if you have any questions, feel free. Yes?
So on the payroll, does the payroll taxes and other are has its own separate line? Obviously, the payroll is just the net payment to the employees. It's not the gross.
Yes. Am I understanding that? I think so, yeah. So, yeah, it's what's paid for. Yep. Any other questions?
Hold on, what are you asking again?
It's got payroll, the payroll on here for like office and whatnot. That would be their net pay, what they're paid on their check, correct?
No, like we pay separate taxes for the employees.
Which is,
So it's not the taxes they pay individually. We pay, whatever our wage is, they pay their own
So
taxes
the
on.
payroll taxes and others, the separate. then
Right.
they pay those taxes.
Yeah, like that's
Like,
their
unemployment.
portion.
Okay.
He's
did
talking.
did he answer your question then? Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah, quick, on the driver or dock wage, how do we allocate like traveling costs when we have a driver that is domiciled at one location and goes to work at another location? Who eats that cost?
It's gonna be.
They have to eat, we actually have the terminal managers emailing Mike's department on that.
Yep.
How many hours they worked and what their wage was.
Yep, and that's the same for if you have any, I know we're getting it, it's called travelers, and I think it's when it's most people are staying overnight. If you have any wages that you know somebody's going there for the day and then coming back, I do not believe we're getting that information.
Bob Barry's been great at doing it with
Okay,
this.
so we're working on that.
We're still working on that. It's,
But that would be one thing I would stress to you guys, communication of that needs to be told to us, because there's no way for us to know person A went to terminal B, so it needs to be given to us. If they're hired under your terminal, they're very likely, without an adjustment, gonna be in your terminal, even though they're not working for your terminal.
Yeah, the reason's this, I mean, you're responsible for your terminal, and if you don't staff it and somebody else has to come bail you out, those costs they're coming to you. So it's not a case of somebody can go pick up the bill for you, it's not gonna be like that. So on the same note, if you're sending guys help, make sure you're sending that information back. We're gonna try to make it easier, maybe format it, send a request out once a month. Well, we need that information, so we take it out of your cost and put it on whoever's needing those travelers.
And that amount will be behind the scenes calculated. You're not gonna see a credit on your P&Ls here. It's just gonna be done. If you guys want proof to that, you can email me and I can show you the calculations or anything like that. I don't think we're gonna get that in depth, but yeah, it's gonna be behind the scenes on that.
And one other add-on is building maintenance will be charged much like that. So if you have a crew at your site for 4 days, we will build an internal system so that we can get it to Derek and he can charge your facility for building maintenance.
We're working on that piece. That's something we're working on. Yep.
Vehicle lease cost, is that fixed for just the number of units that I have, or is it by model year? Am I paying the same for my 12-year-old truck that I'm paying for my?
You're paying the same.